everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Political Arena. And today I wanted to talk about the election, since it's a huge, crucial, very intimate election that people are going to vote in. And it's going to be very exciting, so why would you have a political channel and not talk about it? So I decided to get right into it in episode 2 and talk about some of the states, the swing states. That's what we're going to be talking about today, swing states and polls and stuff, and a theory that someone has, professor. And we'll talk all about that later. So right now I have this interactive map. It's called Road to 270, and it's really good because you can interact with the map, predict what you want, make your own map, whatever. Anyway, so we're going to go through the swing states here and see what's going to happen. So, what is a swing state? You hear it all the time. Some people don't know it. A lot of people do. But if you don't know it, that's all right. And basically a swing state is a state where the Democrats and Republicans, usually, have a similar levels of support among voters, and it's very important to determining the overall result of presidential elections. The one you've probably heard about the most is this one right here, which is Florida. You've probably also heard of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia becoming a swing state after going Republican for a very long time, Nevada, Colorado. All these states that don't have marks on them are pretty much swing states in this election, or the main swing states. And pretty much everything else is set in stone. So you have Clinton 201 and Trump at 191. 10-point difference right here, right now. And basically, the way we're going to go through this is we're going to look at the polls, the most recent polls from Gallup and Rutgers and all these. And we're going to go through them all, and we're going to see, well, all right, the polls right here and right now, if the election was held today, here's what would happen according to the polls. And we'll talk about poll reliability in a little bit. So let's get into it. So the first one over here on the West Coast next to California is Nevada. And according to the most recent poll, Trump is up on Clinton 44% of likely voters for Trump and 42% of likely voters for Clinton. Now, all these polls are likely voters. We'll get into what that means a little later, but we'll just talk about the numbers right now. So right now, Trump is winning in Nevada. Trump is losing pretty bad in Colorado, 10 points right now. Colorado did go Obama, and Nevada went Obama in 12. Wisconsin, they're all going Clinton, by the way. Wisconsin has 43 Clinton, 38 Trump, and Michigan has 44 Clinton and 37 Trump. And then you have Ohio, 18, went Obama, Trump's up 42-39. Pennsylvania, Trump's down 48-43 in Pennsylvania. New Hampshire, Trump's down by 1 point, almost a virtual tie at 41-42%. Virginia, Trump's down 37-40. In Virginia here, North Carolina, Trump's up 44-41. And Florida, Trump's up 46-42. And Florida went Obama in 12. So all these are the states that are in play. And so let's mark these up and see what we got here. So Trump has Nevada by 2 points, 40. So we'll go with Nevada, Trump, Clinton, Colorado. She's got 210 already. Blue, Iowa, red. Iowa goes red. That really wasn't. Iowa's really not a swing state. That's pretty much a lock for Trump at this point. Ohio, Trump's up 42-39. Pennsylvania, Clinton for now. Virginia, Clinton for now. North Carolina, Trump. And Florida, Trump. Wow. Oh, shoot. Sorry, New Hampshire. Clinton by 1 point. By 1 point. Very close. Even the polls are very close. With the interactive map, it says Clinton at 273 and Trump at 265. And it's very close, and that's why this race is very entertaining. So they're assuming pretty much the whole northeast New England's going Clinton, and the lake area, right here, your Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and you got Illinois. Minnesota will always go blue. They were the only state that didn't go blue with Reagan in one of his elections. They were the only state that did not vote for Reagan. Even Maryland voted for Reagan, which is another very blue state. So the closest one right now I mean, they're all close. They're all very, very, very close, with the exception of Colorado and a couple others. But Trump's got a 3-point lead in North Carolina, which went Obama in one of the elections. Florida is a big one that Trump can get Florida. That's going to be a big one. But without New Hampshire going red, you can see where Pennsylvania, and my opinion, my personal opinion, Pennsylvania could go Trump very easily because of these workers on this left part of Pennsylvania that are historically Democrat and are blue collar workers, which is Trump's base, and anti-Clinton, anti-establishment, anti-TPP, anti-NAFTA. These are over here, all on this part right here, which is why Pennsylvania might go red. And if that happens, obviously Clinton wins. Now, or I'm sorry, Trump wins. If Pennsylvania flops to Trump, Trump wins. That's going to be your key state. This is going to be your Florida. Florida is going to be your Pennsylvania, because it's going to be crucial for Trump to win Pennsylvania, for him to win, and for Clinton to get Pennsylvania, for her to win. So she needs to appeal to those workers that she basically called worthless, the coal miners, when she said she wants to put the coal miners out of business. Yeah, that sold this area for Trump here pretty much, as Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and western part of Pennsylvania up, which is why I'm saying it could easily go in Trump's favor. And so that's why this can go either way. And obviously you have Alaska going red and Hawaii going blue. And I mean, New Mexico will probably go blue. With Clinton. And New Hampshire is so close. And the upsets in New Hampshire that have happened this year, in the primaries is astronomical. So anything can happen in New Hampshire from what we've learned. And with Virginia, which is becoming more liberal in the north part, which the thing is, if you section that part off, Virginia will be a red state. But because of this high populated part in the D.C. metropolitan area, that causes the whole state to be blue. And it's only that one part, because that's where most of the people are. So that was this interactive map. So, I mean, Trump could easily win. Clinton could easily win. If Trump wins New Hampshire, Clinton wins Pennsylvania. Whoops. You can see how close it is. And guess what? That's going to be pretty fun if this happens. That will be fun if it's 269 to 269. And but something could happen if Trump wins that. Very close. If these polls tighten up and Hillary Clinton falls off and she does bad in her debate, that could easily be the outcome. That could easily be the outcome of the election if something bad happens in these debates, which is why the polls really aren't as accurate and why we're leaning on the polls as much, because we haven't seen the debates and Trump go after Clinton or Clinton go after Trump. Now, if Trump messes up, this is what you're going to see. Ohio's going to go blue because of Kasich, John Kasich, the governor of Ohio. Although I don't know if Ohio will go blue, but they might. They might. You never know. Pennsylvania will definitely go blue. Virginia is definitely going blue. Oops. North Carolina will probably go blue. This is if Trump messes up significantly. Florida will go blue. New Hampshire, blue. Blue. And I mean, you can see that it's not going to be fun for Trump. So a couple words could change this entire election, and that's why it's entertaining and very fun. So I just wanted to point out that the swing states also total about 146 electoral votes, which is 27% of all of the votes, which is a large number for the swing states. That's 27% of about the 500 and how many electoral votes there are is 146, which is 27%. And also, you need 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. That is 50. The swing states account for 54% of the votes needed to win. So more than half of the votes needed to win are compromised in these states. They're in these states, which is huge for swing states to have this much of a significance. Even though they always have a significance, it's it's bigger than it has been before. So let's get into how the polls and some problems with polls, and no matter who you support, Trump or Clinton, there's a little bit of problems with polls, and so let's get into that. So, the past year have been disastrous for polls, starting with the Republican convention with Trump getting the nomination in the first place, but more importantly, let's talk about the individual state of New Hampshire, where they said Bernie was going to lose to Clinton 46% to Bernie having 38%, and Bernie ended up winning that New Hampshire primary. He won that New Hampshire primary. And also, another poll example is when Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel was running for his office. They said he was going to lose, and they were going to have, and the guy he was running against had a 4-point lead at the last weekend before the election, which was Herzog, I believe, was the guy he was running against. He had a 4-seat lead into the final weekend before the election, where he lost, not just a little bit, but he lost badly. It wasn't even close. Netanyahu won that. The other one that's significant is the Brexit vote. The Brexit vote is also another one, probably the most recent one, that showed that the polls were completely off kilter and untrustworthy to some people, because everyone saw Brexit as, it's not going to be a big deal. It's just this little thing that's going on. And as a matter of fact, you could see here 55% during a poll before the Brexit vote. 55% said let's remain in the EU, and only 37% leave, according to the poll. And it was wrong, obviously, because goodbye. They're out of the EU. They're out of the European Union. Britain left, and for good purposes too, because they were getting strangled economically with their immigration policies and economic policies. It was really putting the stress on the United Kingdom's market. So they decided to leave. Probably the right choice. And another one I have is Trump. Trump was losing in New Hampshire, like he was in pretty much every state in the beginning, and Bush had 16% and Trump had 10%, which was the original prediction in New Hampshire, and Trump ended up winning that as well. And when this whole weird politics movement started was in about 2014, when in Maryland, one of the bluest states in the Union, voted in a Republican governor, Governor Larry Hogan, who won and beat Anthony Brown, who was a longtime Democrat in Maryland and former lieutenant governor to the state in the previous O'Malley administration, which was heavily Democratic. And Hogan won. Surprised everybody. Nobody thought that a Republican would win in the state of Maryland. Bob Ehrlich did it before, but it hasn't happened since, and O'Malley just took over with it. And it was entertaining. It was a very entertaining election because Anthony Brown just insulting, and Hogan said, "Hey, listen, let's do something for the state instead of political rhetoric," and it worked. So that year was a very odd political season, and that's what started this whole. And let's end the status quo, because it's not working. So, polls, you have to watch out for polls now. And, some people say, like a Washington Times article basically said, that, social technological changes makes it harder for people to detect voters, likely voters. That's the key word, is likely voters. Because what's a likely voter? Well, that's someone who's voted in the past. What about this election, where people believe voter participation is going to be huge because people are going to vote for the candidate who they don't like? And, it's you can't count those people that haven't voted before in the polls because you don't know who those people are. They're invisible to the polling companies, basically. And you don't know what they're going to do. That's the thing. That's why the election, the polls, that's why I said you got to watch out for the polls, because they're not too reliable right now, because they're only polling likely voters, which are voters that have voted before. And the previous unlikely voters that are now interested, really, as I said before, they're not counted, which is what the problem and the interesting part of this election, and the unique part of this election. And there are more people interested in this election than before. One poll shows that 80% say that they thought about the election more than they did last election, and 60% said they are more interested in this election than 4 years ago. And likely voters in the past three elections are nowhere close to that 80% in this election. So it's a unique election because you have the establishment, status quo, old news, Hillary Clinton, which you pretty much know you're going to get, and you have Trump, an outsider, businessman, never held a political office, which in my opinion is a strength of his because, he's not an outside, he's not an insider who's looking to improve the situation for his political party, which I don't believe. And Hillary Clinton, she's there to promote her party, which is disunified as well as the Republican Party with the Never Trumpers. You have the Bernie supporters as well. So you got that interesting tick to this election. So the biggest thing is, don't let the polls form your opinions. You want to use your own judgment during this election. There's a professor from the American University who's predicted every election since 1984, I want to say. His name is Professor Leichtman. As I said, he's at the American University history professor. And he came up with a system that says, forget the polls, forget the debates, which I kind of disagree with, because I do believe the debates are a way to see who the candidates are and what they're going to be like in the public eye. So I do believe the debates are kind of crucial, but I agree with him on the polls part. So, and that's when Trump's winning or Trump's losing or Hillary's winning or Hillary's losing. The polls, they fluctuate throughout the year on opinions, and it doesn't matter until that voting day. That's when it matters. That's when the polls matters, when you go out to vote, not when you tell people what you want to vote. So you have these, don't let them form your opinion. But there's, I believe, 13 of these suggestions, I'm going to say, that tell you how the candidate is or if they're going to win or not. This is what he uses is Professor Leichtman, about winning elections. So the first one is party mandate, which means, all right, so after the midterm elections or after the elections of the last presidential election, who holds more seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, the incumbent party, which would be the Democrats, or the Republican Party? Well, previously in 2008, the Republicans had 202 seats in the House of Representatives, only, and Democrats had 223 seats in the House of Reps. Well, now it's Republicans have 246 and Democrats have 186. So the Republicans have surged in Congress. So that's one check mark there. All right, the contest. Is there no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination? Meaning, is there contest with the nominee? Both have contests with the inside of their parties, but the Democrats and Hillary Clinton at that convention really showed how they're not unified, especially with the Bernie Sanders supporters and the young millennial voters. They are showing that they don't want Hillary Clinton, the old news, and they see her as corrupt. But a lot of them don't like Trump either, but they might vote for Trump just because they don't want Hillary in office, which is highly likely that people will do that. And you have the Never Trumper movement, which kind of failed, and you have the establishment Republicans still not voting him, like your John Kasich and stuff. So, the next one is the incumbency. Is the incumbent party candidate the sitting president? And if he is, whoever the sitting president is, usually people want to change and they won't elect the same party, with 2 8-year elections in a row. So usually the odds are in the opposite party's favor to win. So that would be Trump. So the next one is short term. Number 5 is number 4 is third party candidate. So basically, is there a strong third-party candidate? The strongest one's Gary Johnson, and he's not that strong of a candidate, and people are kind of backing away from him after they're seeing he's not 100% there. So, but he is taking more votes away from Clinton, apparently, which I was surprising, because usually the Libertarians take more away from Republicans, but they are taking away. The Bernie voters are attracted towards Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, who was about 2% in the election, which I don't even know why she's running. But anyway. But yeah, Gary Johnson, he's got probably the biggest third-party candidacy, but it's not as big as the Ross Perot one back in the 90s. So the next one is the short-term economy, number 5. So is the economy is not in recession during the election campaign? Is there anything wrong with the short-term economy? Well, depending on who you talk to. Factually, it is slow-moving. It's kind of still struggling. There's a bad labor participation rate between working abled men. There's about 10 million men aged 24 to 54 that could be working and aren't. They're neither in training or in education. Or in a job. They're not doing anything. 10 million workers. And they're not counted in the unemployment because they're considered discouraged workers. So that's a problem. And you have a problem with skills, labor, and prices are rising when wages are stagnant, and you can't just raise the wages because that would completely collapse businesses. You can't just do that. It's criminal for you to raise a price on a business for the worker that's doing the same job. You're worth how you work. The more skill you have, the higher you'll get paid. Bottom line right there. Number 6 is long-term economy. So this is real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. So there's a very high national deficit of $20 trillion. The president has spent more money than any other president in history combined. And he's the only sitting president not to have over 2.5% GDP growth. Even during the Great Depression, they had over 2.5% GDP growth. Herbert Hoover did. So he's the only president that hasn't had that. And the low interest rates are boosting the economy, but they'll hurt us in the long term because if we have an economic downturn, we can't lower the rates unless we do negative, which means they'll be taking money out of your bank account through the interest rates, which you don't want. So you kind of want the interest rates higher, even though it'll kind of ruin your house loan a little bit. But I would figure your bank account in the long term is more important than a big house you want now. So all right, so the next one, policy change. So is the incumbent administration, is the Obama administration affects major changes in the national policy. So Obamacare is the biggest one. It's not popular amongst doctors or practicing doctors or people because it's raising the prices on everybody, and the people still aren't getting covered as well as they should be. So, yeah, it's not a huge success for President Obama. All right, the next one, number 8, is social unrest. Yeah, there's a lot of social unrest. There's a lot of it with Black Lives Matter and stuff. There's Baltimore, Milwaukee, Ferguson, Dallas, San Bernardino, Orlando. I mean, all these cities are experiencing violence and hate and riots and terrorism and all kinds of awful things that you can only imagine. And it's all during the Obama presidency, and we haven't seen this since the 1960s. and LBJ was president, who was also a Democrat. All right, number 9, scandals. Is the incumbent administration untainted by major scandals right now? Yeah, there's some scandals going on. Actually, there's a few scandals going on, like Fast and Furious, Benghazi, the IRS scandal, attacking opposite party private organizations, Iran getting billions of dollars, the VA spending $6 million for 2 conferences in Orlando. That's just a few of the scandals that are going on. So yeah, there's many scandals. Number 10, foreign military or failures. So does the Obama administration suffer major or no major failure in foreign or military affairs? Well, there's ISIS that was born after we left the vacuum after Obama decided to leave prematurely. So we got ISIS. We had Russia taking over Syria after President Obama drew the line in the sand, which, was never. They crossed it and spit on it, and Obama didn't do anything about it. So that was a foreign policy military failure. You had the Arab Spring. You had Benghazi, which you can use as a foreign policy failure. You had the Iran deal. You had Iran seizing U.S. ships, Sergeant Bergdahl trade, where they got 3 or 4 of the highest terrorists for one sergeant that abandoned his troops. I mean, what kind of trade is that? So, that's that one. So 11 is foreign military success. The biggest success probably during the Obama administration is Cuba and renegotiating with them. I would say that was the biggest one. All right, number 11, foreign military. I'm sorry, 12, incumbent charisma. So does Obama have charisma? Yeah, he's got charisma. That's how he won his presidency. Was being more charismatic than McCain. He seemed like the nice guy. Well, Hillary doesn't seem like the nice person to most people. And you have Trump, who's very charismatic, which is the last one, is the challenger charisma, who brings in thousands and thousands and thousands of people at his rallies. And you see Hillary Clinton standing in a room with a couple hundred. I mean, you have Trump getting thousands of people and Hillary only getting a few hundred. Yeah, and that's a difference right there. That's a difference of who you want to see talk to. And that's when Hillary can get out and speak. Because right now she's not too healthy doing it, even though she's doing a couple right now. And, according to the analysis right here, it's looking pretty good on Trump's side. So according to this guy, this professor, he's got Trump. He's predicting Trump, so we'll see what happens. And, you can choose to listen to these tips or these 13, criteria for who's going to win the presidency, or you can listen to the polls later on after the debates. I would say listen to the polls more after the debates than today. So, with that being said, that'll conclude episode number 2. So please like, subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. And tune in next week. We'll see what we got. Thank you.